The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
Hello again, I'm Eric Olson, President and CEO of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of On Cue, where we're going to take a look at the education system in Austin. Some important information to tell you about an upcoming vote, a referendum question. We're going to go through that. And we're just going to kind of touch on the highlights of activities in and around the Austin Public Schools, and who better to fill us in on all of these issues than the Superintendent of Schools, David Krenz. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Eric. I always enjoy talking about our school system because we do a great job.
And we have some exciting new things to talk about, and I know we're going to get into the referendum question and all those exciting numbers and, math things. I was terrible at math. But we're going to go through the numbers in the referendum so you all can understand them and go to the polls with a good background of the knowledge coming up in November for the vote. But first, a fun thing, and I think that no matter if you're in education or not, or maybe you're watching us somewhere else in the viewing area, not necessarily Austin, Rochester, Winona, Albert Lea, wherever, it's not very often that you get to have a new school come in to a district, and we have had that here in Austin this year with the I.J. Holton. And that's got to be an exciting thing for a superintendent.
Well, it is, and we're really excited, not just because it's a new school, but about what we're doing inside that school. The biggest event that took place is the training that we did this past school year. For all of our 5th and 6th grade teachers. We, 2 years ago, had decided that we would designate and provide opportunities for all the teachers who chose to go to the 5-6 Center and have them trained in STEAM, or science, technology, engineering, arts, and math instruction. Basically the engineering process. And where most districts for this sort of change will take a week, a couple days to train staff, we took the whole year and made sure that our staff understood the process, were excited about the process, and were, most importantly, a part of that designing how they were going to teach as they entered the new building. We're changing our system of instruction beginning at that level. Not only is it about the engineering side of basically problem solving, taking real life problems and solving those problems through instruction, using our math, using our language arts, using our science information, and giving the kids real life problems to be able to solve. And the teachers have to understand how that all comes together. Along with that, obviously, is the community's participation. That began again about 2.5, 3 years ago, as we brought a community task force together to talk about what they wanted in a new school. First of all, they had to determine they wanted a new school, and that's what they did for us. Saw the numbers, excuse me, and determined our enrollment, which will be going up almost 1,000 kids in the next 8 to 10 years. They saw that problem and said, okay, let's come together as a community, let's provide a new environment for the kids, but also help change instructional practice.
And so these young people who are coming in the first few classes at Holton, the education they get there will look a little bit different as they progress on to junior high and high school. Will that?
What we're starting, and that's a very good point, what we're starting at 5 and 6 will continue through in 7 and 8 and then into the high school. Now it won't look the same because we're talking about different levels of maturity, different needs at those levels, but that training that we talked about this past year for our 5th and 6th grade teachers is now going to begin taking place for our 7th and 8th grade teachers this year, so they can implement next year as the kids come into their school, and then the following year at the high school level. The other thing that I think is important, you've heard of one-to-one initiatives, and that's basically computers, for one computer for each kid. We're beginning that at our I.J. Holton building. So each student will have their laptops. They'll use those not just as a toy or a reward, but actually in their instruction. You've heard kids who have binders and take care of their notebooks and those sort of things. All that's going to be online now. All that's going to be in their technology, as well as many of their textbooks will actually be online.
Well, I know you've got all these high-tech things you're talking about, but to this old guy, I saw something that was pretty simple but pretty remarkable in the school building. I took a picture of it, of the floor of Holton has, so you go down the floor, there's this terrazzo, but it has yard markers on one side in the stone and metric on the other side. Now, even I could figure out that there was a learning component to that.
Absolutely, and that has to do with the science and math component, but also as a long metric when the kids start doing some of their science experiments. So it's not just in the classroom, they'll be out utilizing that hall. But there's something I bet you didn't see, and that throughout the building there are North American animals, birds, mammals, footprints also within that terrazzo. They're smaller, and the kids will actually, as part of their excuse me, Minnesota history, will be looking to find those sort of things throughout the building. So we're pretty excited about that little touch also.
You got me. I totally missed that one.
I tell you, it took me a while to find most of them too. So they're well placed.
And there's a wall. And the first day of school, I saw a bunch of students like clamoring to be next to it where they could measure their height. And around it was other markings. We have a picture of that too, of other things that are about that height. So they can compare their height to what other things in the world are. And it went all the way up to 20 feet or so.
Yeah, the highest mark, I think, is the world record for the pole vault, which is 20 feet, a little over 20 feet.
So it's good. It's how we relate to the outside world, and that's just some of the fun things that I saw there, my brief visit there. But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I think whether you teach there or not, it's an exciting time.
Absolutely, and I think the community needs to be proud because they came together to make sure that this is one of the finest schools, we believe, not just southeastern Minnesota, but across the state of Minnesota for educating our 5th and 6th grade students.
David Krenz is our guest, Superintendent of Austin Public Schools, and coming up after this short break, we're going to talk about the upcoming referendum question and what you need to know in Austin to make an informed decision. By the way, the students of Austin Public Schools, of the video production class, I believe it is, created a video showing some of the projects that are going on around the school. We'll be back, around the district. We'll be back in just a minute. Take a look at the video.
Often when we hear news about the schools, it's about test scores, special events, or sports teams.
There is so much more to know about your community schools. Our schools are a true partnership between the parents, community, and educators. Some things might be similar to when you were attending classes.
Who's got teeth that are missing? Let me see.
I do. I have 6 coming in.
But others are very different.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ-TV website, ksmq.org.
And welcome back to this special edition of On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. We're talking about the Austin Public Schools with Superintendent David Krenz. And we have a referendum in Austin coming up regarding the public schools. And it's a little different than a lot of other ones because, and you brought this up at Rotary Club when I heard that the other day, that there's no presidential election, there's no state elections, there's no local elections, there's no city council. it's just going to be this question, so it's important to get the word out about it.
It is, and that's our biggest worry, because we believe that public schools are a critical component of quality of life in any community. And one of the advantages that the community has, or the voters have, is that they can vote on whether to increase taxes or not increase taxes at the school level. That's not necessarily the same for the city and the county. They can levy and increase taxes on a board or city council level. In our case, we have to ask the voters, and that's what we're doing at this point. The nice thing is we're not asking to increase taxes. Actually, taxes will be going down.
That's the confusing thing.
Exactly.
And we're going to get that. We're going to get to that
Okay.
in a minute. But let's talk first about just what is this referendum?
Oh.
It's a sunset. It's a renewing one that's about to end.
Expire.
Is that correct?
At the end of this school year. And as I talked about in Rotary, and I'm talking about in many other civic organizations and living rooms and wherever people will have me, is the fact that in the early part of the 2000s, the Austin School District, as many of the districts in the state of Minnesota, had to go out and ask the taxpayer for more money to operate their schools, mainly because there had been a shift in legislation on how schools were going to be funded, and there was an economic downturn, and we understood that. So in our case, that renewal needs to take place from an election that originally took place in 2003, and it came into being in 2004. In our case, that 10 years is up. That's the maximum you can have a operating levy. So we need to do this to maintain the programs we've come to count on because of that extra, in our case, a little over $1 million a year to keep teachers in classrooms, to maintain programs. And that's a little bit about what the video highlights are the number of excellent things we're doing with the money that the public has approved to be spent on our K-12 education.
Okay, so this is one that is 10 years old, so it's already in effect for taxpayers.
Absolutely.
So it's not really, it's a new one, but not really. It's one of 2 current operating referendums. And why are so many school districts having to rely on referendums these days? You say lack of funding over the last 14 years. A lot of school districts are doing this, not just Austin.
Well, of the almost 330 school districts in the state of Minnesota, all but I think 20 at this point have operating levies. And the main reason is, as most of us felt during the mid to late 2000s, the economic downturn. So their money wasn't coming from the state to maintain the programs and the staffing that school districts needed to educate their kids. So in our case, we asked the public 3 years ago to renew 2 operating levies that we combined into one, and they approved that. And now the third of the levies that were passed early in the 2000s, we're asking to renew. And basically, it isn't an increase in taxes, and we'll talk a little bit about the shift that the state has done, and thankfully to your local legislators, they've actually will be lowering your property taxes for this referendum.
Now, is that this
That's
chart here that you want to talk
chart.
about here?
And basically, the state constitution says that you need to have an equal educational opportunity for every student in the state of Minnesota, whether it's in International Falls or Austin, Minnesota. But because property taxes are such a critical component of local schools, some districts have an easier time raising that money than others, just because of property values or the wealth within that district. Austin, and that's called an equalization formula. Now, for instance, a community like Edina up in the Twin Cities, their school district would be a 0 equalized school district. So they wouldn't get any state aid to help them.
Because of the cost of the real estate is high enough
Absolutely.
that the taxes are able to pay for the school.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But here in Austin, we used to be approximately a 47 to 49% equalized district. But because of the state legislature, some of the new money, a lot of the new money that they put into education wasn't directly money to schools, but it was money to offset property taxes. And so we've gone from approximately a 47% equalized district to a 60% equalized district. So for the same dollar value in this referendum, taxes will be going down for every property owner. And that varies from, and I think I've got a chart there.
Yes, you do.
That varies from the $100,000 home, their taxes would be going down $41 a year, to, let's say, a $750,000 business, their taxes would be going down over $300 a year.
And let's be clear, so this, what you're looking at now, folks, is the tax impact upon approval of this referendum.
Absolutely.
So if voters approve the referendum this November, your taxes would go, down, as you can see on the corresponding chart here.
Now, if it doesn't approve, then it would go down even more because they wouldn't be taxed for that. But that's what we're asking the taxpayers to do, is to tax themselves, to pay that money. But they're already paying it at this current time. We're asking them to continue paying, but at a lesser amount for the same dollar value.
What's the overall impact of the school costs compare Austin to other parts of the state? Is it right about in the middle or something?
We're actually probably on the lower half of cost per student in the state, and that's mainly we think we do a pretty darn good job of looking for easy economics in terms of tax savings, in terms of cost savings. For instance, we've done an excellent job retrofitting all of our schools' heating and ventilating systems over the last 3 years to make sure that we're more efficient. We look at replacing, light bulbs, at using more efficient air handling systems for changing bus routes, so gasoline, diesel fuel costs go down. We look at constantly changing insurance companies so the rates will go down. Those sort of things are important. The thing that's really impacts school budgets the most, Eric, is obviously the personnel. It's over 80% of our costs in a school district. So, we look at efficiencies and how many teachers we have, how many support staff we have, eliminating administrators, those sort of things across the board to make sure that we keep the costs down. And we believe we've balanced our budgets even in tough economic times to make sure that we're doing the right thing and not having to come out and ask for more money from the taxpayers, but to just continue at the same rate that we are.
And with enrollments going up, projected to go up in Austin in the coming years, you can see that as maybe a problem, but maybe a good thing. It's showing that people are, wanting to move to the area and attend the public schools.
Well, I think one of the biggest signs of a strong community is their employment and the types of jobs that we have. And in Austin, Mower County, the employment rate has been our unemployment rate's been very low, even during the down economic times. I think we're under 5% now, and I've heard some economists say if you're under 5%, you say you're fully employed. It's just some people are doing other things at this point. But I think it's the jobs. We have good jobs that bring people to the community, but I think part of that is we have good schools that also bring people to the community. We were counting on being up about 80 to 90 kids this year, and so you anticipate that. You add staff, remove staff with those numbers in mind. We're actually at this same point in time last year, we're up over 150 kids. So there's people coming to the community. Now, you might say, well, that's a cost burden. Well, is it? Those extra families and kids also spend money in the Austin community. They provide a flow of wealth to businesses and to the city, paying taxes in the county. So it's all one big picture in terms of a positive upward economically.
And this referendum, this ballot question, it's not for a specific thing we're not voting on.
No, and sometimes that's hard. That's a good point. Because with a school, which the voters voted on 2 years ago, it's easy to see, well, I'm going to see a brand new school there, and I can see where my money's going. In an operating levy, it's about the day-to-day operations of the building. It's hiring teachers, hiring custodians, hiring paraprofessionals, buying textbooks, all those sort of things that really impact the day-to-day operations of a school district.
All right, we're talking with Superintendent David Krenz of the Austin Public Schools, and we'll wrap things up right after this break. We'll show you the rest of the video that the students of the Austin High School media class put together about some of the exciting things happening in Austin.
Austin is proud to provide a world-class education to students birth through the end of life. Technology is integrated at every level. This integration allows students to learn in the manner in which they're most successful and addresses all learning styles. Our students are prepared to compete in the global world we live in. Technology is just one tool that is used in our learning environment.
And welcome back to this special edition of On Cue here at KSMQ Public Television in Austin. I'm Eric Olson. We've been talking with David Krenz, Superintendent of Austin Public Schools. And if folks have questions or want more information about the ballot referendum, where can they go?
2 places. One is our website, austin.k12.mn.us. We'll have information up there. Also to call my office at 460-1900 to ask for information. We can send stuff out. Or more importantly, if they wish to have me come out and visit with them or make a presentation or someone in the office do that, we'll be more than glad to do that. And that would be contacting that 460-1900 number.
And the vote is in November.
No, excuse me. Yeah, November 5th, right around the corner. I choke up a little bit. It's just, you know, you hate to have to go to the voters and ask for money. Luckily, in our case, it's strictly a renewal, and with the work of our legislators, that'll even be, their tax burden will even be going down. And I think it's important for folks to understand that voting is the most important. Whether you vote yes or you vote no, this is your opportunity as a citizen, as a taxpayer, to be able to say, yes, I want to support my schools. No, I can't afford to. Take that chance on November 5th and go to the polls.
And with nothing else going on in the election, there's a concern that this might just kind of go under the radar because there's not a presidential election, there's not state or local. So make sure to put that on your calendar right now so you don't forget to get to the polls in Austin and cast your ballot there in November. We have just a couple minutes left, and I want to, go ahead.
One quick thing. Absentee ballots are available. You can either pick those up in our finance office or at the county auditor's office too.
Okay, very good. Real quick, we talked about Holton School opening. 4515, the new concept, new to Austin. Is that something that might expand to other schools in the district?
We're really excited about that. The results of that program have been tremendous in terms of the academic gains our students have. This is the 3rd year of our 3-year waiver from the state to change our calendar. So we will have to go out and ask again from the state to continue that. The board this school year will be discussing options, whether to continue, which I think everyone's on board to do that, but maybe to expand it, to change the way it looks a little bit, maybe add some busing. Those sort of things will be discussed at the board level beginning this fall by the Austin School Board.
And that, folks, is 45 days on, 15 off year-round school. We had the principal came on, and so far, I mean, it's been going very well.
It really has. Just, it just makes so much sense that kids have less downtime, and whether we like it or not, kids aren't learning quite as much when they're not in school, and they do regress in math skills and reading skills, and that less time off helps. The other thing that just makes sense, if a kid falls behind in September, makeup doesn't happen, summer school doesn't happen until 9 months later. Well, in our case with the 45-15, we actually have their summer school during those 15 days right after that first 45, second 45, etc. So we can catch those kids up who have fallen behind almost immediately. And that really has been the biggest boon to the program.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time. I know it's very limited, and we appreciate your coming here, David. And best of luck in this school year.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
David Krenz, Superintendent of Austin Public Schools. And that'll do it for this edition of On Cue Special Edition, Education Edition. I'm Eric Olson. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.